Hey, this is Michael Emery. Thanks for tuning into the Slow Baja. This podcast is powered by Tequila Fortaleza, handmade in small batches and hands down my favorite tequila. Well, if you've been listening to me for a while, you know I'm an absolute minimalist when it comes to Baja travel. But the one thing I never leave home without is a good old paper map. And my favorite is the beautiful, and I mean beautiful, Baja Road and Recreation Atlas by Benchmark Maps. It's an oversized 72-page book, jam-packed with details, and now you can get it from me at slowbaja.com. That's right. You can get it in the Slow Baja shop, and in fact, you better get two. One for your trip planning at home and one for your Baja rig. And if you love maps and you can't get enough of them like me, let me tell you about two sites I am absolutely obsessed with. Eastview MapLink and longitudemaps.com. Whatever you're looking for in maps, it's there. From the entire benchmark collection to Baja wall maps to custom maps, you'll find it all at longitudemaps.com or evmaplink.com. You know, I've long said it, ask your doctor if Baja's right for you. Well, if you've been hankering to get down to Slow Baja with me, you got to check out the Adventures tab at slowbaja.com. All my trips are there, from my famed fall vintage extravaganza to my winter and summer expeditions, which are open to trucks of any age. You know, on a Slow Baja expedition, your meals are always included, which really does take the sting out of camping. And when we get off the trail, let me tell you, we have the happiest of happy hours. If good dirt roads, private campsites, ranch stays, great food, and great people sounds like your kind of fun, well, you got to check out the Adventures tab at slowbaja.com. But don't delay. These trips are small, they're highly immersive, and they will sell out. And folks, just so you know, I am always here for you for your Baja trip planning questions. One question, 100 questions. The easy way to get me is slowbaja.com/contact. And if you'd like to go to Baja and you don't want to go by yourself, you don't have a vintage vehicle, my winter trip doesn't work out for you, I am happy to talk to you about organizing and leading a private guided tour. I've done it. I've loved it. The pictures are over there at slowbaja.com/adventures, and you can check them out. And if you've got some questions, let's talk. Coming to you from the Shieldman recording booth at Slow Baja Studios. Thanks for tuning in to today's Slow Baja podcast. My heaping dose of gratitude goes out to Pauline Marguerite Wickham and her dude Darren, better known around Bahia de Los Angeles as Dern. At Pauline's urging, now she's a Slow Baja alum. You may remember I talked to her a couple years ago. She's been itching to get me out to Rancho San Gregorio for some super slow Baja adventures. And, well, we had it all set up, and she had some family business that took her up to the States. So Dern stepped in and got me up to the ranch and introduced me to Mimo and Vincente, the brothers that are running the show out there. And they just could not have been kinder. They saddled up Pachuco, an absolutely beautiful, beautiful mule, and led me on a couple of epic rides. Again, the first day, the first ride, I should say, we went up a super steep cuesta. And the cuesta is one of those switchbacks, ancient switchbacks carved into the side of a mountain. So when the El Camino Real encountered something like steep, like a mountain, they would carve these switchbacks so the mules could get up and down them. And just stunning engineering. And we got all the way up to the top of this cuesta, and there's this stone with this incredible cross carved into it. And the thing should probably be in a museum, but there it is, just out in the middle of nowhere, above Mimo and Vincente's Rancho San Gregorio. So that was super cool to see that. The next day had us rambling through the cactus, and Vicente was out in front hacking a path so that Pachuco and I could get through unscathed. And we got to explore some caves up on the sides of these mountains. And these caves have housed Cochimí for centuries. And you know, metates everywhere, arrowheads. We pick them up and put them back down where we found them. And then lots of cave paintings, not the big murals that you're used to seeing, but much smaller works, much more intimate works, and stunning recreation of the local flora and fauna and animals. And anyways, the reason I was up there and the reason that Pauline's been trying to get me there is it's very tough times for those ranchers. The drought is there's just not enough forage for the cattle to eat, and it's calving season. The moms can't make the milk, and it's tough. So the ranchers are doing their best to buy some alfalfa when they can and buy some powdered milk when they can. But anyways, I'd love to bring some people up and charge you a little bit so we could buy some hay for those ranchers. And if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, checking out stars that are bigger than I've ever seen and beautiful environment that's, again, no light pollution, no noise pollution, just, natural Baja ranching like it was a century ago. If that sounds like something you're interested in, hit me up at the contact link at slowbaja.com, and let's stay in touch, and maybe I can get you on a future trip with me there. All right, well, today's show is with Paola Villaseñor, better known by her artist name Panca. Panca was born in 1986. She's a first-generation muralist, illustrator, painter, and she's fluent in creating art and life on both sides of the border, and that's what kind of drew me to her, or her to me. She was born in the States, grew up in Chula Vista, but now resides by choice in Tijuana, and we met earlier this month on a rainy day at Baja ADV Garage, and I should say thanks to them for providing such a cool space for this recording, and to my photographer and fixer Edgar for setting it all up. So without further ado, it's Panca today on Slow Baja. It's a Slow Baja podcast. I've got magnificent Panca here. Edgar, my Baja fixer, has made all the arrangements. We're at the Baja ADV Garage. Check out the cool BMW behind me. We're in a space right on the street here. It's a rainy day, and I'm just stoked that I'm sitting here with Panca. I've seen your work everywhere, it seems like.
Nice.
All right, that was a good conversation. Thanks, Panca. Yep.
I had a lot to say about that. Where have you seen my stuff? Mostly in San Diego, or?
Yeah, so I'm from San Francisco.
Oh.
And, there's a fine tradition of street art there that kind of got fired up in the 80s with Barry and Margaret and some other folks.
Yeah.
And I went to San Diego State, and so I'm San Francisco, San Diego, and then my wife worked for a few years in downtown Los Angeles. So it seems like I've seen you in all those places, but you tell me. I know you're in San Diego. I know you're in Tijuana. Downtown LA, or am I just making that up?
I've done a couple of pieces in downtown LA. I've shown in LA at a couple of galleries. But I've yet to really tap into LA so much. Have friends and artist friends over there. Hung out with a couple of artists that I admire and stuff. But same with San Fran. San Fran, I kind of went and did some street art, at the typical places where all the street artists go to, and realized, like in Oakland, it can be just as, not as scary, but close to Tijuana.
Yeah.
Careful with that, but yeah, definitely had the experience, and then mostly Tijuana, and then the last few years in San Diego.
So I'm very curious, and I'm not going to get into politics here, but I'm very curious. You born in the States, grew up in Chula Vista, yeah?
Yes, I grew up in Chula Vista.
And that was just a time where the border was a little more fluid, yeah?
Yeah. It was.
Can you talk about that?
It was easier to cross. I remember even like super small. We were small, and I think we had like a cousin who couldn't cross, and it was just like, hey, act like you're asleep, and your cousin will like be like you, and it wasn't even, she didn't even stay. It was just because we wanted her to be able to go to the party. So it was just like, and I hear from friends here in Playas that they were just crossed to go to McDonald's, and so it wasn't that, and my parents were naturalized eventually, like they got that. So yeah, it was a lot, it was easier. It wasn't.
Yeah, easier, more open.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we would get groceries every month.
Yeah, the shopping went both ways, though.
Yes.
People from the States, from Tijuana, or from Tijuana, Chula Vista, I mean. Chulajuana could come south and pick up the things that they were not easily accessing there.
Yes.
The things that you need. And then folks certainly in south of the border were coming north to get the things that they wanted and
Very
needed
much.
and all that. And now
Yeah.
it just seems like that's a little crankier.
Yes. My parents were from Mexico City, so there was a place called Comercial Mexicana, and it had a little bit of more of products that were from Mexico City in that area. So we always came there and did, like the pharmacy, the doctor, all that was in Tijuana. So it was a one a month thing, and then like sometimes parties and things like that from different people. But yeah, it was a binational life. But also to Mexico City, I did a lot of that too, a lot of flying to Cuernavaca and Mexico City. So
And so school in the States.
yeah,
Yeah.
school in the States.
And then when did you move to Tijuana?
I moved to Tijuana shortly after my mother passed away when I was around 2019, not 2019, but between 19, I get kind of fuzzy, but between 19, 20 or 21, I don't know. Somewhere around there, I was kind of already halfway over here, but I was, caretaking my mom and everything. And so after all that happens, I was kind of just kicked to reality, which was like, when to fend for yourself, kind of, here you go. And at the time, the economy was terrible. Nobody was hiring anybody, and I would think I was a barista. And lines were long. Tijuana was a very scary place, to be honest. There was a lot going on. It was the very beginning of like all that dark period. But when you're young and dumb and you're just kind of looking for that excitement, and you're used to maybe to the chaos in a different way, or you're grieving, and I was just like, let's go. So I moved to Tijuana, and yeah, that's kind of when it started, around 19, 20, 21. Yeah. And I'm 39 now.
Yeah, I was
so.
going to say, so what year is
Yeah.
that? I'm trying to do some
I'm
math.
guessing that would be like 2007 or 8.
You saw the blank look on my face.
Yeah, I'm like, I was like, yes.
But I find it so interesting, having spent much time in Tijuana in the 80s as a college kid, where Revolucion was catering towards drunk Americans, service guys, all you could drink, cheap,
Yeah.
all the
Sailors.
trinkets, all
Yeah.
that stuff. And then, in my opinion, I don't know if I'm right, but in my opinion, when things started happening crime-wise and Americans became afraid to go, that economic change with that business model, things changed. And in my opinion, again, Tijuana started creating space or doing things for local people.
Yes, that's very much something that we were criticized. Everybody that was in like the artistic creative, because I was still like a little, I was a sponge.
You're a baby artist?
Yeah, I was a baby art. I was learning from the better, like Nortec and seeing them and kind of growing from that and just learning from all the people around there. And there was a lot of criticism about like, oh, you guys are just partying in these like really dangerous times, like be careful, this and that. But now I see it in different eyes, and I do understand that it was careless and dangerous and everything. But I also understand that was how we were coping with it, like numbing ourselves and dancing and just trying to make a scene out of something, because if not, people were scared.
Yeah.
And that's when kind of Central got kind of revamped, because we just started to go to these little dive bars and things like that. But yes, there was a very like awkward, it was dark.
But I think the end result is a lot more interesting for me now to go. It's much more interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
yes.
let's talk about you, Panca. Is that roughly translate to punk? Is that
kind of.
approximately? Is that how would you describe what
I
Panca?
think so.
Where's
Yes.
your nickname come from? Your art name.
It's a combination. I had a friend. I have a friend that he gave me the name, and I believe that it came from punk rock. Like it's the Spanglish, the way people say punk rock, like kind of combining Spanish and English, and it was just the way I was. I was just kind of a like very very just punk rock at the time, my way of being, and so he gave me that nickname, and it stuck. But it also became kind of something that we said like, oh, how'd you end up? And it was like, oh, all Panco. How'd you get in? Oh, I went all Panco. Like it was kind of like I don't know what other
way of being, a
way
of operating.
Yes, it was a way
under
of
the
being,
radar.
under the radar, but also kind of like barely skating by, but also kind of like wow. So it was a lot of things, and I think I just embodied that. which is weird because now it's like a shadow of my former self, but at the same time I'm always that. So it was just a friend who kind of saw that in me. And also it was a short way of saying my name is very long. So I also wanted to protect my actual identity because of all the things that I'm mentioning. But, you know, I'm not going to write my whole name on the doodle on the wall.
Yeah. So again, when you're doing art outside, what do I want to say? In a feral nature, not sanctioned, unsanctioned art.
Illegal.
I don't want to say illegal, but yes, unsanctioned art.
Yeah.
You're probably not writing your name and phone number and Instagram handle. Well, it was before there was social media.
You know what there was? There was Tumblr.
Tumblr, yeah.
So there was people that, you know, I actually just recently opened my Tumblr, and I went in there and I said, oh my God, look at all the people that were like, you know, people would take pictures in bathrooms and where I had like sketch stuff, and I would people would be like, you suck, Panca, and it was so petty and dumb, and there was even like graph wars and things like that, you know, that in the end kind of impulsed me to reach out to like bigger and better things. But at the time it was all kind of word of mouth. I because I was kind of like roughing it, I walked everywhere. So I had these chanclas that were like, they broke once and I just taped them back together. There's a picture of it somewhere. And that was part of the Panca thing, you know. It was just like, I could get new chanclas, but that was okay. And I would walk, so I would party, walk, and I would realize where people hung out, where people leaned, where people would get the visual impact. So I kind of just studied that, and then I went to New York and I saw really beautiful murals by really talented artists, and that was kind of just like two different bombs went off in my head, you know, of like me having to do more than just party, and then me seeing this like these female incredible artists like Maya Hayuk and things like that, and saying like, well, maybe I can go further than just, you know, partying and not that that's wrong, but, you know, like I had this like this lust to make something, you know.
Yeah. So talk about that lust to make something, to be something, to be somebody, to change the channel maybe, or channel your whatever, the pain that's inside you, the pain from society, the pain from your mother, whatever that was that is driving your behavior, to channel that into like, I'm going to be making art and murals. And you created a super recognizable, to me anyways, a super recognizable form. Mm-hmm. Where did that come from?
You know what? I actually don't know. I think it came from the same pain. Like a lot of the drawings, when I look at it, I'm like, oh, those were definitely not drug induced, but they were definitely part of like the craziness that happened. But I also learned that I didn't really deal with my grief properly, being so young and being so just kind of alone in the world, that I kind of masked it. But then I also, way later, realized that even the Panca thing, it had more to do with like neurodivergence and things like that. So it kind of all came together, and there was a lot of moments where things broke me, but they ended up kind of liberating me. And then the style was always there. It was just kind of, I had to embrace it. I had to stop comparing myself to a very classical artist, and realize that, you know, I was a little bit different, just as I was. So I think once that happened, I just started to embrace it and kind of go further and further. And I never really understood when people are like, it's so good. And I'm like, well, I don't know, but I like it. I like that I get to do this, and I get to get paid, and I, you know, get to, you know, do stuff like that. But yeah, I'm always kind of in awe. I'm not like, I don't know how to say it, but yeah, I'm always trying to reach for something. But as long as I get to do what I want to do, I am happy.
Can you tell me a little bit about maybe the first time you figured out, like maybe even when you were very young, you figured out like, I like drawing, I like painting, I want to be an artist.
Oh yeah.
You know, I have 3 kids, and my wife was never going to let the kids just have her iPhone when we went to a restaurant or whatever. Mom always had a bag of pens and paper, and everybody had to doodle.
That's good.
And not that I'm saying that, you know, we were consciously creating artists. We did get 1 out of the 3 who's an artist, but
that's a good thing to do.
So was there a period of time where you said, like kindergarten, high school, something like, all I want to do is doodle on my notebook. Or what's wrong with Panca? All she's
Yeah.
doing is, what's wrong with Paola?
Yeah.
All she does is doodle. Can we get Paola to stop doodling and pay attention in class? Was there a moment of that?
Yeah. I definitely had, maybe 2 years ago when I was going through this, I looked through all my grades, and literally there was comment that's like, she's a great student, but she's distracted and she's drawing. And I have drawings on the report card, so it's super funny. And I have a lot of, really sweet comments from teachers that were like, hey, you're going to do really great. Like, let me know when, like beautiful things. But I think that since I was very small, my mom and my dad gave me like a paint set from like Costco, like whatever. And I really took to it. And I think they always gave me sketchbooks, and we were always traveling to Mexico City. And honestly, my siblings were older.
Yeah.
So it was like, how do you entertain? There was no iPads at the time. And actually, I never owned an iPad in my life. So it was basically all these, I wish they would have kept them, but like so many sketchbooks. And I would just draw and draw and draw. And it was like my little secret world. And I remember being super little, and I was always with the adults, and the adults were playing dominoes. But, what was I going to do? So what I would do is I would draw on the napkins, and I would just slide them over to different, like my uncle or my grandfather, my grandmother, and just kind of like tell them, like, draw them things. And they told me this. I don't really remember that much, but they said that's how you started since you were very young. So like,
interesting.
Kind of trying. I think for me it was like a third language, because my parents were strictly Spanish, and then I was Spanish. And then once I learned English,
Were you the translator? Did you for?
No, I grew up in a very strict household where we weren't allowed to speak English at home. Like, we would get in a lot of trouble. So it was like the minute we came inside, it was like Spanish, because it was actually super disrespectful to speak there without my parents kind of understanding. Even though sometimes my siblings and I would communicate, but for the most part, it was separated very well, because they didn't want us to lose the Spanish, because it was you lose it very fast.
Right.
Yeah.
Is there a Spanglish component to your life and your art? Is there something that you can touch and say, I am this way because of that?
In my name, do you mean?
No, and just your life, your work, whatever. Is there a Spanglish benefit?
A Spanglish benefit.
I mean, is it do you feel it anywhere in your work?
Oh, yeah.
You're very,
my point of view, to be able to see both sides.
Yeah.
Because sometimes just coming from San Diego and I didn't really feel like I fit in with the Chicano culture. I feel more binational. And that's something that I feel is like a superpower at this point. I used to be very embarrassed of it. Like, oh, I'm a bocha. I'm a first generation. I'm not really Mexican, but I'm not really American at all. And then I kind of, but now I definitely feel, I definitely feel more comfortable in my skin, and being binational, it just makes more sense, seeing that half my life now has been in Mexico.
Yeah, and you're living in Tijuana now.
Yes.
Spent your childhood years in Chula Vista, and then now you're living.
Yes, I went, and 3 years, I just came back. So I was 3 years in San Diego, tried it out. Not for me, but lovely city, but yeah. Just
good place to paint, good place to place to sell.
Great gigs. There's, parks galore, beautiful spaces. I understand, why it's what it is, but maybe I'm the chaos. I don't know. I like Tijuana. I'm very inspired by it. It's like a visual, poem. So I like it.
Tell me about your working life now. Are you out painting? Are you running from the police? Are you doing that, or is it all galleries and commissions now?
You know what? Right now I'm battling censorship. Anything political, and with the meta and all that stuff, to be very careful. So I'm trying not to get banned on Instagram. So I've been selling, prints. I've been working in different mediums like light boxes, and just kind of, I get bored and I just want to make stuff. So murals, I have a couple murals in the works. I have one soon, hopefully this summer. And I've also limited myself, because when I was in the US, because it was more rent, because it was so much demand, man, like I'm almost like I'm taking a little bit of, I'm enjoying the little things right now, and I'm also hoping to reach out to a couple of orphanages or just things that are just not about me, and work and collaborate, and also meet other artists that I've been disconnected from since I was in the US. So I just want to do a little bit more of that. But also completing a mural will wipe you out.
Yeah, it's exhausting.
Yeah, when I did the Liberty Station one, I'm not gonna lie, I had got COVID in the middle of it, but it wiped me out. So now I know to pace myself. Like maybe like a little bit of 3 weeks of a break, and then start another one. So.
And what's behind Panca? Do you have a team, or is it you're it?
No, you know what? Recently, a couple of artists have posted their team. And I'm like, what? Like, you have a team? Are you freaking crazy? Like, this is amazing. No wonder. And I'm like, this is good. I mean, good for you. But at the same time, I'm like, I felt bad for me. And then I felt, that's pretty cool. You're kind of an idiot, but you're doing it. Like, look at you go, But no. For real. It's so inspiring when I see other artists that have a team. And I'm like, that's very smart. Should get on that. But
but then also you have to sell enough to support that.
Yeah.
Thing.
But at the same time, I'm such a lone. I'm like a hermit. I'm a lone wolf. I'm very reclusive, and I don't do it to be cool. I am what I am. Not to be like Popeye, but it's worked out so far. And look at him, so calm.
Yeah. First video, first podcast for Frank here on my.
He's calm. He's a good one. He's a good co-host.
Yeah. Thank you.
But yeah, just I enjoying the food that I missed very much, and yeah, I'm still in the process of reconnecting. But yes, there are murals in San Diego in the works, so I'll always be back and forth. That's the thing that I'm very privileged that I can do that. And even though right now that's another reason why I came over here. I am a U.S. citizen, but I have dual. But I kind of did. I knew what was coming, and I said, bye, I'm out of here. And a lot of people right now are reaching out to me like, hey, and I'm like, yeah, I told you guys I'm out. I would get arrested in like 10 minutes over there, just like by defending somebody or by like saying something. So I don't even cross my sketchbook.
We're going to take a quick break here. So if you need to get out of there and get down to Mexico, you need some Baja Bound insurance. We'll be right back after a word from Baja Bound. Here at Slow Baja, we can't wait to drive our old Land Cruiser south of the border. When we go, we'll be going with Baja Bound Insurance. Their website's fast and easy to use. Check them out at bajabound.com. That's bajabound.com, serving Mexico travelers since 1994. Hey, big thanks to those of you who've contributed to our Baja Baseball project. We launched our gear deliveries on my winter expedition. Michael and Matthew from Barbers for Baja were along for the ride, and we got to deliver that critically needed baseball gear up and down the peninsula. It was really, truly amazing. And on my last trip, I got to go to the state baseball championships and see some of our alums playing, some recipients of the Baja baseball gear deliveries. And congratulations to Guerrero Negro and Mulegé. The Austineros and the Cardinalitos won silver and bronze at the state championships. Big stuff. And it was really fun to be there and fun to see them. All right, well, please help us continue this vital work. Make your tax-deductible donation at the Barbers for Baja. Click barbersforbaja.org. Click the Baseball in Baja link, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. I really do. It is so amazingly gratifying to be able to give these kids this chance to keep playing this sport, keep them on the field, keep them out of trouble. Please check it out. Baseball in Baja link at barbersforbaja.org. Thank you. I want to tell you about these new Rocky Talkie radios that I absolutely love. Heavy duty, beautifully made, easy to program, easy to use. We had 28 people, 15 trucks on the Slow Baja winter expedition. You can hand these radios to anybody from a 14-year-old kid to an 80-year-old, and they'll know how to use it. They are that well designed. One charge lasted the entire week. We are never out of range. I happened to upgrade to the accessory whip antenna for my radio and for my Sweeps radio, the Donovan brothers. We were never out of contact. I can't say it strongly enough. Rocky Talkie radios, rockytalkie.com. Check them out. Slow Baja approved. Hey, we're back. Frank is totally relaxed here with Panca, and we're just back from, you're talking a little bit about getting out of there, and you're living here in Tijuana now. Tell me about the soul of Tijuana.
Ooh. The soul of Tijuana, I'd say that it's
the cool part of San Diego, isn't it?
It is. They have a saying. It's like the best of San Diego is Tijuana, and the best of Tijuana is San Diego. But visually, people can argue that obviously it's not a if you compare it to Querétaro or whatever. Growing up in Cuernavaca, going there, it was like night and day. But at the same time, it has its beauty. It's a dark beauty. It's not the kind that you right away look at and go ooh. But it's a multi-layered city, because it is a border city. There's going to be a lot of layers to it that you don't see. And it's a city that will make you street smart or you will sink. And it's a city that if you can't be in if you have like really bad vices, because it will eat you up and spit you out. And you have to be smart. But it's received me 2 times with open arms. So yeah, it's taught me a lot. It's a tough city.
Can you talk a little bit about, we were just talking about the San Francisco art scene when we were off camera for the Baja Bound break. Can you tell me a little bit about being a female street artist running on the back streets of Tijuana? You must have some stories, positive and probably some scary.
Yeah, some of them were, I was very lucky that I had another friend of mine that kind of recognized I was doing stuff, and he said, hey, so am I. You want to go do it together so we're not alone? Because it was, again, like during the war on drugs, so it was really bad. And we kind of started to learn like the cop schedule, what times they would switch and we would go. So we would go and first we started with wheat paste. And we had a bunch of funny experiences of like, running around and just dropping everything and just freaking out and having to do it again. And
so for wheat paste, for folks who aren't really understanding that, you were printing posters or creating art?
We were painting them, and then we would make this like goo.
And then you're slapping it up on the wall. And you've got to like, you probably saw it on a cartoon, on a Bugs Bunny cartoon where they're painting it on the streets of France in the 50s, putting up posters.
Yeah, it smells terrible. And it's also it's something you made like piñatas with when you were in class or something. So we made that, and I have a few videos there, but I have a few people that have admitted to me, they're like, hey, I actually went and I ripped it off and I kept it. And I'm like, oh man, exactly. You have it? So I'm like, cool, at least you have it. It's not like
somebody has one.
Yeah, there's a few, because that's what I did first. And then after that, I started, because a lot of people were, again, at that time, there was a lot of graffiti and street art, but not many female street artists.
Right.
So damn, I'm not gonna exaggerate. It was a very misogynistic experience, and it was scary. I had to walk around with a knife, because there was a couple of guys that they were kind of pissed that I didn't want to like paint with them, and I didn't get the best vibes, so they started to show up in my apartment like in the middle of the night and just like it was a mess. So anything I would paint, they would get there and just cover it. So it was like a paint war.
So I was going to ask you about that. How much did your stuff just get covered because people were jealous?
Well, not all of it, but also something I had to learn is that's just like in Spanish, the word is efímero, which is, it lasts what it lasts.
Yeah, it's ephemeral.
It lasts what it lasts, and you can't really get mad in the sense where, it does suck that these assholes, these guys are going around, and basically what they were saying is like give ass or go home. And it was like, whoa, like they only saw me in those 2 ways. So it was really sad, and there was a lot of people that were defending them, but at the time, I couldn't really I couldn't show everybody, hey, it was the very cusp of like social media. So I just had to make sure I was, I had at the time I had a knife, and it was just it was kind of scary, but it was basically because I didn't want to paint with the crew. I didn't want to paint with certain guys, and
you didn't want to be their girlfriend.
No, I didn't want to mess with them. There was fights. There was like they opened my ex's like there was a fight. It was crazy, things like that. But those situations were good, because in the end, a lot of those guys either one, everything's cool, or two, some of those guys, you know, aren't around, or they're in places where, you know, where they ended up because of the way they were. But for the most part, there's no beef. That still exists, and that's something that's existed since the beginning. I've read interviews with like Lady Pink, and I think like that was happening to her, and it's very misogynistic, and it's unfortunate. But the cool thing is that lately there's been more female artists, but that's what motivated me to reach out to art galleries. And kind of, I was like, hey, I'm not making money off of these murals that are getting covered. I love street art, but I also need to make money. So let's change this up, because I was getting really I was getting paranoid and depressed.
Yeah.
To be honest, yeah.
And tell me about that process. How did it go for your first show? You're in a gallery. What was that about? Like, I mean, take me through that.
It was cool for the bread and salt one, the big one. That was really cool, but you know, there was a lot of controversy because of Barrio Logan and, you know, all the gentrification, the owners, everything. But for the most part, I think once I met with a lot of the OG painters from there, they realized I was Mexican. Not only was I Mexican, but I lived in Tijuana. I was first generation, and things kind of died down. My mural was also first big time mural and show, so it was like a big combo of things. But yeah, it was I don't know. After that, I think it's when I just wanted to work on bigger sized canvases, and it was a good experience to work in that size. It's a scary thing to fill that kind of sized room. Yeah. It's scary, and believe me, you look back and you're like, oh, I should have done this, you know. But I've been in that gallery so many times that I've been able to do, I think, what I wanted to do with it. So I feel comfortable. And
one more time, the name of that show and what year was it?
Shit. Wait.
Bread and Salt?
The place was Bread and Salt. The gallery, and I have like 5 murals there, but the name of the show, crap. It's either... It'll
be in the show notes. We'll get the research department on it. Don't worry, Panca.
Yeah, I'm like, crap, I've had like... and they're always weird names. Like, I'm the architect of... No, that was the last one. The architect of my own misfortune. That was the last one, but there was one before. Oh, why aren't you a normal kid? Oh, girl.
Why aren't you? You got to talk into the microphone.
¿Por qué no eres una niña normal was the name of the show, I believe. And that's just something my dad used to say to me.
How come you're not a normal girl?
Why aren't you just normal?
Why aren't you just a normal girl? So a little bit about your family. You were a younger kid, right?
Yeah, I'm the youngest. Yeah.
So you were getting a lot of cultural influences from your older siblings.
Definitely. Yeah, they were Gen X.
So. Yeah, and you were watching some of that 80s stuff as a little kid, right?
Probably stuff I shouldn't watch. I was watching like Weekend at Bernie's, like Nerds, all those scary movies, Freddy, all that stuff, like at 3, 4. That was all coming in my head. I was traumatized. Like,
no wonder you're painting what you're painting.
Yeah, of course. And also at the same time, my parents would always go to churches in like really colonial towns, and I would see like the saints, and like a lot of there's a lot of that.
Yeah, but did that stuff scare you? Because it scared me as a kid. You go into a Catholic church and you've got Jesus, and he's got these open wounds, and he's nailed up to a cross. I mean, that stuff is like, wow.
You notice my drawings have a lot of that, though.
Yeah, I was going to get to your...
Yeah.
Can you talk about the eyes?
Yeah,
what's going on with the eyes and the mouths and the noses? Tell me a little bit about...
It's a little darker. I mean, the eyes, to be honest, it's a combination between the saints. Sorry. When I was about 10, we went to Tasco, which is one of the cities that we would go to a lot between Mexico City and Cuernavaca, because there's a lot of silver, and my mom would sell jewelry, so she'd go to get the silver. And we would go, and I remember... Wait, what were we talking about?
We were talking about just saints and how that kind of informs your work, seeing these things that scared me as a kid.
This town was famous for having a cathedral that was like really, really just very dramatic imagery in the saints. So I remember when I went inside this church. After that, I think it was... My mom said that was when I said, hey, can I not have to go in there? And she said, yeah, it's fine, like, we should just go because we're here. And I said, okay, because I don't like it. I don't like going in there. But also to mention, when I was really little, we went into a church, and I asked my grandma at the time, I said, what's that? And she said, oh, it's Diosito, which she was trying to say like, oh, that's like God. And I understood osito, which translates into bear. So for like the first maybe 4 years of my life, I thought God was a bear. So there's that.
And the influence.
Yeah. So I was never really like into religion, but definitely that comes up in the imagery. And also, I mean, I've seen somebody pass away, and I've seen certain things where maybe like the eyes, like the disassociative look, or that kind of reminds me of that maybe. And also, it's also just, I never forget people's faces, even like sad or good, but they stay in my mind, and I think that's what comes out when I draw certain faces, which can be very simple drawing, but the eyes will just stare you down. So
Yeah, we've got some motorcycles leaving here of the Baja ADV garage, so we're gonna let those roll out, but then we're gonna get on to decoding those eyes.
Yeah.
The eyes in your pieces, whether it's on an ice cream cone or whatever. The eyes are intense.
Yeah, they're intense. They're intense. I don't mean them to be piercing. It's more just like I like them looking through you. You know.
Yeah.
It's like I'm kind of trying to make you uncomfortable, but not so much where you run away. But yeah, I definitely like the way the eyes stare. You know.
I mean, again, I'm from San Francisco, so seeing Barry McGee's before I knew who Barry McGee was, and I'd see these figures that he painted on like a roll-up door of a building or something, and they're so sad. Yeah. Like the eyes are just painful. You could feel his pain coming through.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I mean, with eyes, you can. I mean, I think that's the most. The little heart, upside down heart nose is just kind of something that just happened. I don't even know how that is. Sometimes, there's a joke about like, oh, it looks like nuts, and I'm like, oh my God. Like even at the museum, they were making fun. I was like, ah, my God, I didn't see it that way. But no, it's an upside down heart. But with the eyes are what set the mood. It's really important. And I always like to add, like that little level of like pain in there. The mouth is what directs it in like either a more playful or sinister way. So that's definitely kind of there's 3 different like little knobs there that you can play with. It's like, oh, it's just a face. It's like, whoa, there's a face, but the eyes, even though it's just a little thing, it can look very different. I've had some people like try and rip off, and I'm like, yeah, that's not mine.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about which knob you're turning and why and when.
Well, it's the mood. Let's say, for example, when I worked for the Children's Museum, I was going through grief for my parent, and I had to basically kind of just learn where to put that, because I was not going to paint that emotion onto a children's museum. And that was hard to do.
Yeah, sure.
Me. So I was very glad to be able to go back and kind of add things and change things, because, I mean, something slipped through whether you want them or not. So for the most part, I'm pretty good at just now, especially with clients, with like brands and things like that. You have to know the mood about it. When it's my painting and somebody buys it, it's kind of cool, because